Think back to the moment you first brought your favorite album home. For the older generation, it was the smell of fresh cardboard and a heavy black record you carefully set on the turntable, waiting for that warm crackle of the needle before the first chord. For others, it was a cassette tape in a Walkman that you rewound with a pencil to save the batteries, or the heavy plastic case of a new CD bought at the local music store on a Friday night. Whatever the format, it was a treasure to you. You sat down in front of the speakers, opened the glossy lyric booklet, and you just listened. Music was not background noise. It was an event. It demanded your full attention, and in return, it gave you its soul. This was the era when musicians played together, sweating through takes and leaving their rage and their pain on the recording. Now look at how people consume content today. A teenager rides the subway, staring at a screen, while the Spotify algorithm feeds him an endless stream of mathematically optimized tracks. If a song does not hook him within 3 seconds, he just swipes to the next one. Nobody listens to full albums anymore. Modern music has become sonic wallpaper engineered purely to hold attention long enough to serve an advertisement. We are told that digital technology made music perfect. But perfect sound is not great sound. Today we are going to break down the exact moment music lost its soul. We will name 15 specific nails that corporations and technology drove into the coffin of real rock and roll and the blues. Subscribe to the channel. Turn up the volume. Let's start the countdown. Number 15. The death of the physical ritual. In the 70s, 80s, and 90s, music had physical weight. You did not just hear a song, you owned it. A trip to the music store was a genuine pilgrimage, and buying an album was a financial investment. You spent hours studying a vinyl cover, carefully preserved mixtapes you had recorded off the radio on long evenings, or built a towering CD rack that was your pride when guests came over. You read the liner notes cover to cover, and you knew the names of the sound engineers, the session drummers, and the writers of every single track. That process created a deep emotional bond between you and the artist. Today, music is just invisible ones and zeros in a rented digital cloud. By stripping music of its physical shell, the industry killed the ritual of devotion. Art stopped being an artifact we preserve carefully on a shelf and became cheap tap water whose value we no longer even notice. Number 14. The Pro Tools Perfection Trap. Recording an album used to be like climbing Everest. The band walked into the studio, the tape rolled, and they simply had to play. If the drummer rushed the tempo slightly in the chorus and the guitarist hit a dirty note, it stayed on the recording. That slight imperfection was exactly what made classic rock feel alive. Listen to Jimmy Page's solos. They are full of technical flaws, but there is so much fire in them that the hair stands up on your arms. Everything changed with the arrival of digital recording and Pro Tools. Producers gained the ability to see sound on a screen as visual blocks. They began cutting live performances down to microseconds and snapping every single drum hit to a perfect digital grid. They removed every accidental rush, every slight drag, everything musicians call the groove. Music became mathematically flawless, but completely dead. Robotic precision sucked the human heartbeat right out of the rhythm section. Number 13. The auto-tune epidemic. We can name the precise year the human voice was officially declared obsolete. It was 1998, and the song was Cher's Believe. That was the moment the world heard auto-tune en masse, a piece of software originally designed to locate oil deposits using sound waves that engineers had repurposed to correct off-key notes from singers. What began as a novelty studio effect became the most destructive plague in the history of music. Today, 99% of everything you hear on the radio has been run through that machine. Vocals are corrected to a nauseating synthetic perfection. We no longer hear a vocalist's voice cracking from genuine pain or passion the way Janis Joplin or Johnny Cash could tear you apart. We hear the soulless metallic shimmer of a plastic robot. The industry decided it was easier to take someone with a beautiful face, who cannot sing at all, and fix them on a computer than to find an unconventional-looking genius with real talent. While technology was killing the natural sound inside recording studios, politicians in Washington were preparing a piece of legislation that would permanently destroy how we discovered that music. Local radio, the pulse of every American city, was being lined up for slaughter by corporate monopolies. Number 12. The Telecommunications Act of 1996. For older Americans, the local radio DJ was not just a voice on the dial. He was a friend, a rebel, and a musical prophet. Every city had independent FM stations where the DJ could bring a record from home by an unknown local band and put it on the air simply because it was great. That was how legends were born. Then 1996 happened. Bill Clinton signed the Telecommunications Act, which eliminated the restrictions on how many radio stations a single company could own. Within a few years, corporate giants like Clear Channel bought up thousands of independent local stations across America. They fired the local DJs and replaced them with centralized playlists handed down from corporate headquarters in New York. The local musical identity of every city was destroyed overnight. The entire country began hearing the same 40 focus group-approved plastic hits cycling on repeat 24 hours a day. Number 11. The Loudness War. Have you ever noticed that old vinyl recordings make you turn the volume up to catch a quiet intro before the full power of a chorus hits you like a wall? That is called dynamic range, the difference between the softest and the loudest sound in a recording. It is what gives music space and depth. In the late 90s, music labels entered what became known as the Loudness War. They decided that a song needed to scream at the listener from the very first second to stand out on the radio. Engineers began applying heavy compression, chopping off all the peaks and pushing the quiet sounds up to maximum volume. The result was that the entire song became one flat, unbroken brick of sound with zero dynamics whatsoever. Music became physically exhausting for the human ear. Our subconscious minds tire quickly from this relentless digital shouting because there is no air in it and no life. Number 10. The Death of the B-Side and the Deep Track. Great bands used to write albums as complete conceptual works. The most interesting, experimental, and personal songs were often hidden on the second side of a record, accessible only to the most devoted fans. There was no pressure to write a radio hit. Today, the singles culture has killed the deep track entirely. Artists release only what can go viral on TikTok, and if a song does not sound like a chorus from the very first second, it simply does not exist. Number 9. The machine replacing the human. Think about John Bonham from Led Zeppelin or Keith Moon from The Who. Their drumming was not just keeping time. It was a furious and unpredictable conversation with the guitar. The drummer was the heartbeat of rock and roll. Today, the industry has almost entirely abandoned live drummers in pop music and hip-hop. They were replaced by the Roland TR-808 drum machine and an endless library of digital samples. The drum part is no longer played by human hands. It is programmed with a mouse click on a screen. It is cheaper. It does not require renting a large studio with good acoustics, and the machine never argues with the producer. But along with the sweat and the mistakes of the live drummer, the primal and animal energy of music walked out the door forever. Music did not only change technically, the very people making it changed as well. An entire generation of rebels, for whom creation mattered more than money, quietly gave way to a generation of business people holding guitars. Number 8. When selling out became the goal. In the 60s and 70s, the worst insult you could throw at a rock musician was the word sellout. Licensing your song to a detergent commercial or a fast food chain was considered creative suicide and a betrayal of your fans. Rock and roll was a counterculture. It stood against corporate America. Today, artists dream of having their track picked up by a car commercial or an energy drink campaign. They launch their own clothing brands, perfume lines, and tequila labels before they have even released their second album. The rebellion was monetized and packaged in a pretty box. Audiences over 50 remember when a musician stood on stage to speak truth to power. Now a musician stands on stage to hit the merch sales KPIs for their investors. Number 7. The MTV effect, eyes instead of ears. Before music videos existed, an artist's appearance was secondary. You could be a short, heavy-set, peculiar-looking person in thick glasses like Roy Orbison or Elton John. But if you had a brilliant voice and a great song, you filled stadiums. MTV changed the rules permanently. The focus shifted from how the music sounded to how the artist looked. The industry discovered that selling sex and a glossy image was far easier than selling complex musical harmony. Video killed the radio star. Studios began signing dancers and models instead of musicians because they knew the look could be captured on camera and the voice could always be fixed on a computer afterward. Music became nothing more than the soundtrack to a visual product. Number 6. The hit factory and the mathematics of pop. Have you ever wondered why almost every modern pop hit sounds exactly the same? It is not a coincidence. Songs today are rarely written by a lone genius with an acoustic guitar. There is a literal industrial assembly line where a track is built by a committee of 10 producers and beatmakers. Algorithms have analyzed millions of successful songs and extracted a perfect formula. When the bass should drop, what second the first chorus needs to hit, which words trigger the biggest dopamine release. This is the Swedish model of pop songwriting, where music is assembled like a Lego set by marketers whose only goal is to activate the primitive pleasure centers of a teenager's brain for 2 minutes. Creative risk has been completely eliminated. Number 5. The death of the affordable concert. At one time, you could go see the greatest band in the world on a couple of shifts' pay from a gas station job. Tickets cost $10 or $15, $25 at the most. This was working-class art that was accessible to everyone. Musicians earned their living from record sales, and tours were simply a way to stay connected with fans. Today, the monopoly of giants like Ticketmaster has turned live music into an exclusive club for the wealthy. Dynamic pricing means stadium concert tickets sell for $800, $1,000, or even $3,000. The industry buries fans under absurd hidden service fees. Rock and roll, which was once the voice of the streets, now requires a platinum credit card. The ordinary American worker has simply been thrown out of the stadium. We are entering the final stage of this breakdown. This is where, over the last 20 years, digital platforms delivered the final crushing blow and turned the very essence of music into disposable free content. Number 4. The MP3 compression tragedy. In the race to fit 1,000 songs onto a small iPod, the industry committed a crime against sound. The MP3 format was born. To make a file 10 times smaller, the algorithm simply permanently deleted an enormous range of frequencies from the original recording: the deepest bass, the highest treble, the overtones, and the natural reverb of the room. An entire generation grew up listening to music through cheap white earbuds without ever realizing they were hearing only 10% of what the band actually played in the studio. Music was literally gutted, stripped of its body and warmth, simply to save space on a hard drive. Number 3. The fraction of a penny devaluation. Before the Internet era, if you wanted to hear a song, you had to pay for it, which was a form of respect for the artist's labor. Today, streaming giants like Spotify pay musicians fractions of a penny per stream. For an independent songwriter to earn enough for a cup of coffee, their song needs to be played thousands of times. Music stopped being a product of value and became a free hook that platforms use to catch your attention and harvest your data. When you have 40 million songs in your pocket for free, not a single one of them truly means anything to you. Abundance has completely destroyed value. Number 2. The 2-minute hook system. Song structure historically involved development. There was an intro, a verse that told a story, a build, a chorus, and a complex solo. Today, Spotify and TikTok algorithms penalize artists if a listener skips their track within the first 5 seconds. As a result, musicians have been forced to mutilate the very architecture of their songs. Tracks today open on the chorus immediately because there is no time to build. Songs have been cut down from a natural 4 minutes to 2, and guitar solos have been completely erased from pop culture because younger audiences with short attention spans cannot listen to an instrument for more than 10 seconds without reaching for the screen. Music has become a frantic collection of short jingles. Number 1. The final nail: artificial intelligence. We have arrived at the absolute point of no return. Today, corporations no longer even need plastic pop stars. Neural networks are already capable of generating a perfect country track, a flawless hip-hop beat, or a tearful ballad from a text prompt, mimicking human voice and emotion with frightening accuracy. Artificial intelligence asks for no royalties, does not use drugs, does not argue with the manager, and never ages. Corporations have been handed the perfect and completely free slave for producing background content. For the first time in human history, music is being created by an entity that has never loved, never felt the pain of loss, and has never feared death. And that makes it finally and irreversibly empty. They scrubbed out the human imperfections with auto-tune. They destroyed the depth of sound with compression. They took our physical records away and locked us inside an endless and faceless subscription feed. But the algorithm only has power over those who consent to consuming its product. You can still take a step back. Pull the old turntable down from the attic. Wipe the dust off the speakers. Go to your local bar and pay $10 to hear a live, imperfect, sweaty, and real band from your own city. Support living human beings before real music is killed by the digital age for good. Drop a comment below. What concert from your younger years was the greatest event you ever witnessed? What band did you see live when music still meant something? I will read every single story you share. Subscribe to the channel, listen to the right sound, and stay free.